The time is just gone 8 minutes to 9 a.m. as we continue with the show this morning. Now, in Umhlanga, the current South African Human Rights Commission hearing on the violence and looting that had taken place in KwaZulu-Natal is taking place yesterday, Wednesday being the third day. And to get an update and to get more information, we're joined by the CEO of the South African Human Rights Council, Advocate Tseliso Thipanyane. Advocate Tseliso, good morning to you and welcome to the show.
Good morning to you and to your listeners. Salam.
Yes, we are waiting for Advocate Thipanyane to join us. Advocate Thipanyane, I can see you clearly. Good morning. Welcome to the show.
Good morning to you. Oh. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you loud and clear. Wonderful that you are able to join us this morning. Now, let's just look at the hearings. Yesterday, the hearings entered the third day. What has transpired so far?
Well, this week we are basically getting evidence from victims of racial killings which happened in Pietermaritzburg as well as in Durban. And then hopefully on Friday, we'll be able to do an inspection in loco into the areas which have been affected by the violence and the unrest.
Yes. Now, obviously, this hearing is going to take a while because you're not only talking to the victims, you'll be talking to a number of other people as well, state representatives, you'll be talking to some analysts and also journalists. So this obviously is going to be a comprehensive exercise that the South African Human Rights Commission is going to conduct, to truly understand what has actually happened.
Most certainly, our main objectives are to ensure that this tragedy, which cost over 300 lives and over 50 billion rands of economy to our country, should not happen again. But also, those who are involved in massive human rights violations are brought to book. But thirdly, to also understand, what happened, where was the state, where was law enforcement when these issues happened. But also importantly as well, to bring reconciliation, between all our people, because we have an objective as South Africans to live in peace, in harmony, and uphold the rule of law and respect for human rights. And then, of course, to get a better sense as to what are the underlying causes, which led our people to do this kind of things. But at the same time, we need to be very clear that, this unrest did not spread to the whole country, which shows that, in many parts of the country, our people said, no, we are going to stick to our values and will not allow these issues to happen. So we're definitely grateful for many South Africans across the racial divide, class divide, who did not allow themselves to be caught up in this issue, which undermines and threatens our democracy and human rights.
Well, certainly, and I think also when one looks at where we are in South Africa since democracy, since 1994, there has been so much focus on bringing the country together. We pride ourselves of a rainbow nation. We talk about social cohesion. And with what has happened in both Durban and more so, I would say, in KwaZulu-Natal, rather than Gauteng, in terms of social cohesion, the ugly racist card that has been playing out, people making political capital out of it as well. This is something that the country cannot afford, Advocate Thipanyane.
No, we cannot afford this at all. I mean, it goes against the values of our country, of building unity and diversity, of building a culture of respect for human rights, dignity. Some of the fault lies in our society, but also highlights, the amount of work we still have to do to get there. I mean, we come from decades of human rights violations, and we're only, 25, 30 years old. So really a lot of work needs to be done. So in a way, despite the tragedy, this is actually a wake-up call for all of us that, we cannot relax. We have to keep on fighting for a better future for all our people in this country.
Yes, and a wake-up call to the powers that be as well, because I think at the end of the day, we know that the buck stops at the top. And this is something that even responsible people within a society, within government, need to take heed of, because we know that there were certain triggers that triggered off the violence and the looting that we had seen. And again, it's about those people taking responsibility, but also making sure that they are held accountable, so we don't have a repeat of what we have seen.
Uphold human rights and ensure that South Africans are free from violence and they are free from the property being destroyed. So the state also has to explain itself. But it's also important that us as citizens of this country also hold the state to account. We are the ones who elect people into government, and we need to hold them to account as well. I think those who are public servants need to understand that they're here to serve the people of this country and not to serve their own interests. And therefore, this unrest basically is a failure of governance to a large extent, but to some extent also a failure by us as South Africans as a whole.
Yes, and just finally, this hearing that is being conducted, how much longer is it expected to take place?
Well, the actual hearing is expected to take 3 weeks. But, we began the process earlier on where we've called for submissions from everybody else. So next week, we'll be getting the state agencies. And the third week, we'll be getting academics, political scientists, journalists, just to give us a broader view. And then we'll continue going through the submissions we've received and then make findings and recommendations. And we're very clear that, our findings are binding unless overturned by a court of law. But also there's a constitutional obligation in terms of Section 181 of the Constitution for all organs of state to uphold the dignity of the Human Rights Commission, which means, therefore, our findings cannot just be ignored by anybody. They need to be respected and implemented unless people have some serious issues with them. Then they must go to court and challenge them.
Well, Advocate Tseliso Thipanyane, wonderful that you are able to join us this morning. We thank you for your time. We wish you all the best, and please take care.
Thank you. Salam.
That was Advocate Thipanyane, CEO of the South African Human Rights Commission, with us this morning. The hearings are taking place, and it's going to be quite interesting as to what pans out within the next 3 weeks, and more importantly, in terms of the final outcome and the findings. The time is just gone at 9 a.m. We're heading for the news. Tabile Duma at the Al Ansar newsroom is standing by. Stay with us. We'll be back.